The educator Dr. Maria Montessori once said,
The child developing harmoniously and the adult improving himself at his side make a very exciting and attractive picture.
Welcome to Montessori Education with me, Jesse McCarthy, where we talk raising children and educating students while bettering ourselves right alongside them. Hey everyone, so today I'm having a conversation with Troy Rivas, who is a dad of two young boys that started in Montessori school, I think just this past year. Now, I want to note before hopping in real briefly that our conversation is not focused on his children's Montessori education. And in some ways, I was hoping for that in connecting with Troy, because Montessori is just much more than just the classroom. And I think Troy brings this out, as hopefully you'll see. For me, and just generally, I think it's about getting outside in the world with children, exploring, staying curious. And that's not just, for the children, it's ourselves. We need to remain that way as well. Now that might just be a little bit cryptic, but hopefully that will come through as we get going. So let's jump into the conversation with Troy. All right, Troy Rivas, happy to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the big questions just right off the bat is like, who's this guy, Troy Rivas, and why am I having him on? And it's interesting because Troy was, was on Instagram. So somebody's like, you got to start an Instagram page for MontessoriEducation.com and so forth. So I did that. And, every now and again, I'll look at some of the followers, see what's happening in it. And this guy kept popping up and all I saw were I just saw pictures of just a huge smile for one. That was just it. So you see, this is Troy. He's not smiling now, but he's got this massive smile, and pictures of him with his family, with his two boys, and then seemingly his wife, or maybe fiance, or
Fiance.
You'll have to tell me what is it, Troy?
Yeah. Fiance. She's my fiance.
Fiance. Okay.
Yes.
So out just in nature, just with the kids, everybody seems to be having a good time. It's not like he didn't post anything that's normal life, but it just seemed so real, so exciting, and so happy. And I thought, let me reach out to this guy. I just want to see, because I rarely get this impression that somebody's just really having a good time with life and in the family. And because sometimes things can be a little bit forced. I see pictures, particularly in Montessori, where it's just very everything's wooden, everything's in the house, everything's in its place, which is cool and all. I want things to be in a place, but this just seemed like, let's get the kids out in nature, let's explore, let's see what's going on. So I thought, let me reach out to this guy. So here we go, Troy. That's Troy right there. So I've seen these pictures. I don't know how much of the audience have, but you're a Montessori parent. Is that right?
Yes, we are.
And two boys?
We have two boys, Camden, who's our oldest. He will be 7 in December 1st, here in a couple weeks. Okay. And he's in kindergarten. Our youngest, Maxton, they do have a K3 and K4 program. Our cutoff date for getting into the program is August 30th, excuse me. His birthday is September 1st. So he's always going to be one day behind, but a year older than all the kids in his class. So he'll be in K3. He was headed to the K3 program this year, but with everything going on, they kind of axed the K3 program. They do have kind of a story time just so they can stay engaged. But as of kind of classroom work, he's not fully involved into it just yet. But Camden is still in his second year now in Montessori.
Okay. And then, so interesting with this episode, so Troy's got his children at a charter school, which I want to get into a little bit later. But right now, on this episode, I want to say this guy's a Montessori dad, this is a Montessori family. But when I'm talking about having him on, it was kind of like a Montessori family out in the world, So the background is, as you heard, Troy's got his kids in school. And as many of us know, many of us aren't even really in school right now. This is, this is all virtual stuff. So I'm not going to focus on the Montessori in the classroom. What I want to do is, get an understanding of what's going on with Troy. So, and what's going on with you basically from what I've seen in the pictures, and maybe you just hop in and just describe what happens, but you're out there exploring, you're in the woods, you're in mountains. What are you doing with the kids?
So we've always, even before we got into the Montessori school program, I always was raised to explore, always get out, find something to do. We have a really good children's museum here, which of course is closed. We have a good zoological society here in Albuquerque, which of course is closed. And so if it wasn't going to a museum or the zoo, then we were always going to plenty of things that are really nearby to us. We have the Rio Grande River, or Rio Grande, because Rio Grande River, it's Grand River. We don't want to say that, but the Rio Grande.
Spanish, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we have the Rio Grande, we have the Sandia Mountains, and then we have our West Mesa, which has petroglyphs, and then it has volcanoes as well. So we're always been get out. I mean, there's so much to do outside. There's a wide open world, even if it's just a local park. So really, we try to a couple times a week. If I'm not working, I try to go out there with them. Of course, their mom takes them almost daily out somewhere just to explore, get out, touch, feel, smell, and just really see what nature really has to offer. I mean, that's how I was raised, and that's how I feel like raising my boys would be the best.
Okay, so now one thing is, if you look where you're at, Troy, I think you said that this is your office. So how are you
Yes.
getting out in nature? Because the parents are like, man, I'm working so much. How am I going to get out with my kid? Like, how are you managing to do this?
You know what? The nice thing is, I'm in real estate here, and I have my own real estate team, a navigation realty group, and so we kind of make our own schedule. Even though this year has been my busiest year, popular to contrary to popular belief, with everything that's going on, real estate has been booming, just with a lot of different factors going on. But it's nice because we can dictate our own schedules. So I could have a morning full of appointments, and then I could say, you know what, I'm gonna block off these couple hours to do this or to do that. Again, I have my own team. If I need to delegate any things to anybody, then we work as a team, and we can help each other out with that. And so that's kind of really the main thing. It's I work a lot, yes, but I want to make sure I have that balance. I want to make sure that my kids know that it's not just work with me, that it's not just sell, sell, sell. It's that make time to be with them, to disengage with my work life or social life, and just me and them, us, and we kind of just I really make that a priority in my life to ensure that we have those times together.
Well, so two things kind of jump out to me with this is, one, it's not often the case that people super plan their lives to accommodate children in the way that kind of it seems that now you're in, where you can have this quote free time that you can block off because, say you're a business owner or you're, working for yourself. So, I mean, I think that's the smart way to go. Like, we want, as much in life, we want to plan the way things are. But for a lot of people, obviously, that's not going to be the way it is. And
No,
particularly,
no.
I mean, today just normal parents, you might have a child, you might have two children, and you didn't really plan to be making your own business or having your own business. So you're working for somebody else, and you can't do those type of flexible
Exactly.
hours. So I have to imagine you're doing some of this stuff on the weekend too. It's not just in these,
Yes,
no, or
exactly.
maybe
So
you're maybe
you
not,
know, it's all over the place. You look at just kind of how my business runs. The summertime is nice because you have more daylight that we don't in during the daytime. So people are off at 5, 6 o'clock, and so they're able to look at houses upwards to 8:30
Mm,
and have some daytime. Now, since daylight savings has changed and we're dark at 6 o'clock, people are getting off of work at 5:30. No one really wants to see a property in the dark. So
yeah.
now that changes to weekend showings or weekend
Gotcha.
dealings. So it's kind of a juggling act. Every week changes. I mean, my schedule, I could have a wide open week coming into Monday, and then in 30 seconds that could change to
Yeah.
be pretty booked out. So it's really kind of a juggling act. We try to set aside for the longest time. I was trying to set aside, okay, Saturdays are the days I'm not doing
Mhm.
anything, but then of course things change. So it's more of a I mean, really, after this we're gonna go for a walk somewhere, take the doggies out somewhere, because I have a gap until 2 o'clock. So
Yeah.
it's a nice thing.
Okay.
I understand a lot of parents work 9 to 5, and that's kind of difficult, but I recommend trying to find a time, even if it's just an hour to the park, just to get out for sure.
And so another reason I wanted to have you on after we connected and talked a little bit is just you have a Montessori, I'd say Montessori mindset before Montessori. So just the way that you're talking is this idea that you basically have to adapt. Like, as much
Yes,
people might look at your life and go, wow, he can make his own schedule. Well, he also has to work on the weekends because a lot of people want to see houses on the weekends.
exactly.
Whereas
Yeah,
the normal 9 to 5 during the week, your weekends are yours, often the
exactly.
case. So I think it's always like, we're always trying to see the grass is always greener on the other side, right?
Exactly.
But what I've liked about you and talking with you is just your ability to adapt, and also just, which you haven't really gotten into yet, but maybe you can speak on this, is it's not like you're saying, oh, nature is important in this abstract way, so let me get my kids out there. You actually like feel it deeply. You have a curiosity about the world. Like I think you had mentioned something like you were out with your children. You said something like, well, what happens when the snow melts from the mountains? It was just like this curiosity question that you probably had before, and now
Yes.
you're modeling it for your children. So can you talk a little bit about, you know, what I see as your natural curiosity and where maybe that came from, and
Yeah.
you know, how you potentially instilled in your children without being like, we're going to talk about curiosity now, kids, you know?
So yeah, good. Pretty much. So I grew up in. I'm living in New Mexico now, but I grew up in Maryland. And the one really nice thing about Maryland that I remember as a child was we had each little town had like a nature learning center, and either it was incorporated with the town, like in a municipal building, or it was out of someone's house. And there's this spare room with tanks of salamanders and snakes and fish and whatnot. And so it was pretty awesome. Yeah. And
That's
I
crazy.
always
I can't, it's like just hearing that and thinking about what happens today with, I mean,
it's
just the
yeah.
contrast. That's anyway,
Different
sorry.
world. Yeah, we used to.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. We had our walkie-talkies, which is and no cell phones or pagers. We had walkie-talkies. The girls had their channel. My sisters had their channel with her friends. My brother and I had our channel with our friends.
Oh man.
We'll link up, get on our bikes, and we'll be gone the whole day. And clearly, that's a whole lot different with these days that we're living in. But that was the thing. We'll just go and explore. We'll ride our bike to this town or that town. We had rivers, creeks, lakes. So you lift a log, there's a snake, there's a salamander, there's a lizard. So there was always this curiosity of what's under here, what's up there, who made this hole? Is it a woodpecker? Is it a squirrel? Is it an owl burrow? Whatever. So it was always just, we were always out. My mom was a big component of that. The nice thing about being in Maryland, we were so close to Washington, D.C. So the we were always at the Smithsonian's, and then we'll go to Baltimore for the National Aquarium. So we're always doing things to kind of intrigue our mind. Going to the Chesapeake Bay, we're always going to the ocean. There was a lot of megalodon teeth in the different beaches there along the Chesapeake. So it was a lot of very contrast things. So we had the ocean, the bay, the rivers, then you had the mountains, and then so it was always something different. And my mindset was, why can that happen? Why are the trees changing colors? Why again, like you said, well, where does the snow go when it melts? Why does the river? There's one of the rivers in West Virginia. We had a family cabin in West Virginia. It actually ran north, and I was like, why isn't it going south? Why it doesn't everything's supposed to travel downwards? And so it was always just this curiosity that just kind of, I guess, my upbringing with my mom. My grandfather was always always kind of challenged us. We'll sit there, old record player. I know that's kind of the thing now. Again, everyone has record players,
Coming
but
back.
exactly. And I do the same thing with my kids. But he'll have a record player. He'll either put a jazz or classical album on there, and we'll sit there and just close our eyes. And he's okay. Tell me the story you got from what you just listened to. So things like that always kind of just kept my imagination going. I was a big fan of Thursday Night Nature on PBS as a kid, and we still watch it. And so it was just always that was always been something of mine that was really just I've always drawn to from a kid, teenage, young adult, and of course into my mid 30s now as a father. In telling that, I always wanted my kids to not just the zoos are great, but go out, explore. Not to say there's a pigeon. We've seen a million pigeons, or there's a squirrel. They're everywhere. No, to really kind of find their ecosystem, to learn about that, to respect it, because everyone has a place here. As I know, a lot of people don't like spiders in the house, but okay, let's get the spider. Let's transport it outside, because the spider has a purpose if it's in the garden or whatnot. And so it's always been something that before we got into Montessori, and I think it was the main reason why we wanted to really get our kids into a Montessori program, was because we were always challenging them to really sharpen their curiosity, to get their imagination going. And with kind of my upbringing, being a part of nature, going to NASA's computer science camps and stuff like that, always really just kind of always kept me intrigued on the unknown. Or and it's just something that I really want to just not just tell my kids, oh, I used to do this and I used to do that and I did this before, but actually show them and then give them the tools to want to go out there and explore and do different things.
Yeah, I guess it's wild because when you're speaking, there was this quote that came to mind. I just like quickly searched it on my computer, but it says something like, children with cupboards full of toys are often bored and naughty, while the child who is left alone takes pleasure in very simple things and is happily absorbed for hours at a time in work of his own choosing. So it's kind of like,
Yeah,
today, and I think a lot of times as parents, I mean, you want to keep your child busy, and it's understandable because you've got your own stuff to do. But if you give them a bunch of stuff to do inside and you can't explore outside,
hmm,
man, you miss out on the discoveries that you're saying.
exactly.
And while you were talking, about just, lifting things up, seeing what's underneath it, like I had a few of the same experiences, and there's something so profoundly like exciting when it's your experience,
Exactly.
you
Yeah,
know? So
exactly.
and I got to say on a Montessori note, Maria Montessori created a lot of these materials inside the classroom to help children to explore the outside. Like the
Hmm.
idea wasn't to stay in a room for 20 years of your life and then go out into the world. It was,
Exactly.
so I love hearing this. And I wonder, one thing that comes up definitely in thinking about, just, I'm curious about your mom, is today, a lot of parents no doubt are in fear of, hey, I can't just let my child get on a bike and ride off. Like, what do you think your mom's thought was that, with you and allowing you to go out? And how do you approach that now as a dad in our quote modern world, which I mean, statistically, it's not any more dangerous, outside than it is in our time when we were growing up. But how do you approach it? How do you think your mom approached it?
How my mom approached it is she knew, well, our community, our little block, and I'm kind of thankful that I kind of live on a similar block when it comes to a dead end, cul-de-sac, etc., as I did growing up. And everyone knew everyone, and I think the issue is people don't talk to each other. I know
Mm,
all my neighbors. Everyone's like, oh, you show so many houses, you do this, you should buy a bigger house, you should do this, you're so successful. I'm like, that's fine, but you can't put a price or value on your neighbors. And I know that we could have our kids riding their skateboard, riding their bikes up and down the street, and they're fine because we know all the neighbors. We have their contact information. We talk to them daily. We're always looking out for each other. And I think that was a difference. I think that's the key difference from when I was growing up to what's happening now. A lot of people don't get the chance to know people, to not even just by this, hey, how's it going, neighbor, but actually getting to know them as a person,
yeah.
having a comfort level, having your kids know them. We knew all our parents. We'll let our mom, hey mom, we're gonna. And it's weird to think this now because again, there's even though I grew up in that mindset and I'm pretty comfortable with my neighborhood, I don't see my kids going to the park and then coming back before it got dark. To me, it's kind of it's a different mindset, but
Mm.
that's how we grew up. We're on our bikes, so we're doing this, so we're going to the river, and we'll be back before it was dark. And if we ended up going to another friend's house for dinner, then we of course let our mom know, type of thing.
Yeah.
Hey, they're over here. We're having dinner. Is that okay? And another thing, there's not really. I mean, at least on my block, there's not. There's a lot of kids or people our age that just don't want families, and which is fine. There's nothing wrong with
Hmm.
that. There's a lot of young adults that they're just not interested in having family either right now or in general. I have a lot of friends. I would say probably 60% of my friends, maybe even more, don't want kids. They're
Hmm.
okay with their nieces and nephews, but so you don't have all these different family dynamics kind of bunched together as I saw when I was growing up as well. So um, I think she was just more comfortable in knowing that we were okay. I think my kids are still a little too young to be traveling to the park and stuff, but
Yeah.
it is kind of nice when you go to the park and you see kids just there. They're playing and they're doing their own thing. They're the big game floor is lava. All the kids play. You go to a park, everyone's playing
I
floor
know
is
that
lava.
game is so
Yeah,
huge.
it's great. And the kids love it. They eat it up.
Yeah.
But I really start seeing a change because I would say maybe 10 years ago I have friends that had kids and we didn't have kids, of course, and they were very cautious about who their kids interacted with, et cetera. And of course, as a parent, you have that natural caution, but we feel comfortable. I mean, our next door
Hmm.
neighbor. is a old Army medic, wartime medic,
Wow.
and he's retired and all that stuff like that. And the kids will every morning they used to get up while we were still sleeping. This is kind of crazy. Get up, wake up, go to his door, knock on his door, tell him good morning. They just start talking. He'll bring him in. He's having coffee. He makes some hot chocolate, and they're
Yeah.
just chit chatting, just
Man,
having
that's
a good time.
beautiful.
And but we know him. We're comfortable. We
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
that, and that to me that keeps that and really sharpens their curiosity, sharpens their skills to not be afraid and to talk
yeah,
and to express feelings, etc. So I think there's slowly a change. Of course, the coronavirus has changed a lot of that because we've
yeah,
had young families move into our neighborhood, but no one wants to really interact with anyone, rightfully so, just for health and safety.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, so the one thing, just the community that you're talking about, just being able to actually interact with neighbors. Um,
Hmm.
I think of just the sense of community that you're talking about. And it doesn't have to be in, everybody's got this beautiful, pristine neighborhood, like wherever you are. I know we had this, and I'll tell you, I didn't grow up like super rich or something like that. It was just,
Yeah,
you just have neighbors that you
exactly.
talk to. And I mean, what you just said with this vet who's next door, I mean, you see this every now and some viral video will go off of some child interacting with a neighbor who's like 70 years old. And it's just something beautiful. And
Exactly.
then most of us just go back to our own lives where we don't do that with children,
Yeah.
And I think it's like when we see those things that we find beautiful in those, viral videos, we got to
Hmm.
integrate more of it,
Exactly.
you know?
Well, you see the kids waving to the garbage man, giving them Gatorade and stuff like that. Like, oh, that touches my heart. Like
Yeah.
that's how life should be, and that's why
Yeah.
we
Right.
want our kids to be. Today, hopefully, I think Amazon. Today's Wednesday. Yes, we got the emergency kind of heat blankets coming in, about a little 100 pack for $44. So out there, if you're
Nice.
listening, it's wintertime, $44 on Amazon. It's
You're
on
going to heat
Prime,
up
so
the
not
whole
for
community.
yeah,
Joy.
and so yeah. So we're gonna get the packs. We're gonna drive
Mhm.
around Albuquerque and start handing them out, just because
Oh,
I
okay.
want.
Really?
Uh,
I didn't know if this
yeah.
was for you and the family. You're actually
Oh no
doing
no
so.
no no
Oh,
no
okay. I
no
was
no.
like,
We're gonna
real
hand it out
explorer.
to we're gonna hand it out to homeless people, just because
Hmm.
we don't want them just to see just a heartwarming thing and say, oh, that was sweet, that was nice. But we want them
Yeah.
to live it, and we
Mhm.
want that kind of to continue to be passed down when they have kids, and so on and so on. So yeah, I think the big difference now is communities kind of going away because people are kind of
Yeah.
inside. Kids are staying inside again, like you said. There's cupboards full of toys, so video games and YouTube and Minecraft and all this stuff like that. So kids aren't really looking outside anymore to do things. I mean, probably when we grew up, we found a stick and some rocks, and we could figure something out with it and go from there.
Yeah.
So I think that's another big change and difference, that kids aren't really out, aren't really kind of exploring and doing things like that.
Yeah. And I mean, you even mentioned, homeless, and in some cities I've been to, you've got kind of, some people that are just down and out and they're struggling, but they're going
Hmm.
to get back up. I know in some of the bigger cities I've lived in, like I can understand parents actually being in fear because there's a lot of homeless that actually have serious, serious mental issues. And
Exactly. Yeah.
there can be dangerous areas. I don't want this to be like, Candyland, fantasy land
Hmm.
where it's, hey, let your
Yeah.
kids just roam around and meet your, like, there's a reality to it, but to the extent that we can, wherever our environment is, it's like, go ring the doorbell. I mean, put a mask on, do what you have to be
Yeah.
safe because of
Exactly.
coronavirus. But if we don't know our neighbors, we're going to be scared because we don't
Exactly.
know,
Yeah.
they could be anybody, that type of feeling.
And it's not the kids' job to do so. It's our job.
Yeah.
It's our job to
Yeah.
go out and meet and integrate, and the whole mantra of, oh, there's a new neighbor, let me bring them a pie. And it's just, you don't have to bake an apple pie. You just go over there and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And with that, now you feel comfortable because you're going to say, oh, hey, do you have kids? I see there's a Barbie Jeep in the side of the house, or oh yeah, my two boys are this. And it opens the floodgates, and it
Yeah.
opens pretty much how communities should be.
Okay, so I mean, in speaking with you, a lot of what you're saying, deeply resonates with me. How I grew up, somehow I love seeing, like when you said you see a child out roaming on a bike or whatever you see, you're like, wow, that's really cool at the park on his own.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. When I see that, like I was a few weeks back, I saw this girl on her bike. She literally must have been 6 or 7, just in one of the main streets, and I was like, yeah. So I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And I thought, why is that so crazy? A 7-year-old
Yeah,
girl on a
exactly.
bike, like she knows how to press the button and go across the street. You know, like
Yeah.
this, I could tell this girl could handle. But um, since you're doing a lot of the stuff that's kind of cool and is working and is kind of the stuff that we might look up to and say, hey, this is the type of dad, this type of parent you want to be. Let's get to some of the struggles. So what
Yeah.
are some struggles? Because I know this isn't all, everything
No,
smooth
no.
sailing. So we all struggle, whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher. If you're working with children, if you're with children, you're going to struggle. Even if you don't have
Yes.
children, you're going to struggle. It's
Yeah,
challenging at
exactly.
times, right?
Yes.
So what are some struggles that you've had being a parent, maybe being a dad, whatever, that that you've kind of faced and overcome, or maybe you're still struggling with it?
Well, I think a lot of the struggles for me personally, and then I'll kind of delve to with school and everything that's happening now, is my schedule. It's so Jekyll and Hyde. It's so up and down, and I'm on and off, and then when I'm off, I see this enjoy. The kids are like, "Dad's home, and we could go do stuff, and we have time, and this that." And then when I'm on, I'm on, and I get home and I'm still working, I'm still doing this, and then the stress and the craziness of my industry is always kind of bearing down on me. And I always told myself, never bring your work home. But of course, you get phone calls and emails, and I always wanted to make sure that the stress that I'm dealing with at work does not equate to my interaction with my kids. And of course, that's tough, and that to me is one of my biggest things. I'm always like this on my phone because I got an email and this and that, and it feels like I'm so disconnected with my kids. And then of
Mhm.
course you're on your phone checking emails. Then it's easy for you to go to Facebook and Instagram
Yeah.
and start doing these other things and responding to these text messages. And then I know that it's a struggle of mine that I need to disconnect from work, from my technology, etc., and really kind of be focused on my kids. So there's struggles big time. I think that at least I struggle with weekly, almost probably daily, is
Mhm.
that balancing act. It's nice. Again, there's the grass isn't greener on the other side because I can make your own schedule. But when you're working 80 odd hours a week, it's the time that you have free. You want to like, I need to decompress. I need to relax. I need to kind of refocus. When my youngest son, he saw that I was super frazzled. He said, "Okay, Dad, count to 10 and take a deep breath." And and I think he was
Oh
two or
man.
three at that time, and it was a slap in the face because I don't want my kids seeing that. I guess seeing me as that, because I don't want them. Of course, we could tell them, "Don't be stressed. Don't do
Yeah,
this."
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
but they're only going to follow our example, and so that to me is a big struggle.
Can I can I
With
ask you
Go ahead.
something on that?
Yes.
So there's no doubt, like, I mean, I think of this because I run my own business. It's, at times, definitely with the ups and downs, whenever it's your
Hmm.
own thing, there's nobody to blame.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
No.
you.
Yeah,
So there's
exactly.
no doubt that at times it's like stressful. And at times it might be that stressful that it's like, this isn't about the work. This is about, I need to look at myself a little bit more. So that difference, I'm curious, because you said that you don't want to bring it to your kids and from the same. I want to let me share a quote because when you were saying this, it popped into my head, and I want to get your take on it in relation to
Okay.
this. So this is from Magda Gerber. So she usually works with younger children, but very famous, very helpful with children. But she said, "Quote: Be honest with a child. It's okay to say, 'I'm tired right now. I'm listening to you, but I'm tired.' That teaches a child reality. You must listen to your own needs too. In this way, you will also help him learn to listen to his." End of quote. So I
Yeah.
think with you, like to me, it sounds like you don't want him to see you like, oh man, everything's falling apart. Holy shit, that type of stress. The
Yeah.
stress that's like, man, I wish I had another hour to sleep. You share that type of stress, right?
Yeah.
Or am I
Yes.
off here?
Yes.
Okay.
No. You're completely correct. Yeah. I don't want to bring. Here's what happened on my day. I let them know. Yeah, today it's been a long day, and they kind of understand. Oh, Dad's home. It's already dark. He's barely getting home. So I do explain to them that their things are stressful. We do like kind of meditation times before sleep here and there. There's a great book called Good Night Yoga, and it's a kids
Mm.
one, but it's good for us adults too, and gives this good deep stretch there. But it helps them kind of wind down, but it helps me wind down too. And I've told them, explain to them, here's why I meditate, because things are tough. Things are hard. It's not very easy. they asked me, Dad, why are you getting gray hairs? Let me explain to you why I'm getting gray hairs. And so it's just one of those things that, yeah, I've always been the component of, I've never talked to them in a sense of uh, baby voices. When they're little, I always talk to them directly, as not as a child, not as a toddler, not as a baby, but as a human being. Because the
Yeah.
reality they have now, the expectation of life now, what they're learning, this is one of their most vital times, is soaking things up, of figuring out, okay, this is going to be my path, is right now. And I want them to have an understanding of, this is real life. This is,
Yeah.
things happen. Things are stressful. Things, it's okay to cry. We were watching a movie, The Art of Racing in the Rain. I don't know if you've seen it.
Well, I haven't seen that. No. It's
It's
good.
great. Oh man, it's a tearjerker. I'll tell you that there's
I'll
three
write that
parts of the
down.
movie. Yes, one of those. And of course, your dad, you want to be tough and strong and bold and nothing and everyone. You want your kids to look at you as a superhero or
Yeah.
something like that. And at the very end, I mean, I ugly cried. Like, not even just like the subtle
Oh.
tears. It was like bad. And they're like, Dad, why are you crying? Why are you crying? So I couldn't even explain to them. That's how emotional things were happening,
Yeah.
was going on. But I explained to him, this is why, and it's okay. It's okay to have feelings. It's okay to be sad,
Yeah.
to be in mourning, or to be joyful, or to be stressed out. And so, yeah, we do a really good job. And I think Ruby does a really good job at explaining. Yeah, there's times that yeah, life hits you, and you don't feel like you get up, and that's okay, as
Yeah.
long as you're figuring out how to get up.
And I like what you're saying there, because I mean, even a man like Superman, if you watch those movies, like, there's a struggle. This is
Yeah.
not, just flying through the air, saving everybody, and there's no problem.
Hmm.
So I think that's the classic dichotomy of, either you're this strong man who never cries and you save everybody, or you're this woman who's just been swept away and she's always tear jerking. Like, it's just so phony, that dichotomy, one or the other. So
Exactly.
I mean, I'd love to hear. That's why I thought with you, I was wondering, when you were saying about that stress, I kind of had a feeling it was like, you share a certain amount, but you don't want to bring it, like, let's say you're crying every single day over small things, like the egg fell on the ground and you're crying, like, that's obviously, that's an emotional problem of our own. That's not really,
Exactly.
yeah. So now, just thinking about, I was curious, is there anything getting into Montessori, like, cause it's just so clear to me, and now it's all connecting and talking with you more, is that you just had this, whether it's from your mom growing up, whether you started to develop it, your sense of your own personality, you had a lot of this. Is there anything that you've gained? And I know there's been a lot of because of coronavirus, you haven't actually been in school as often and so forth, but is there something from Montessori that you said, wow, I can really integrate this into what I do at home? Or you just,
Hmm.
you already got it all together. You're like, no, I got this.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I think so. I think with especially with Camden, um, he's a very hands-on learner, as I was. And I was, of course, when you grow, when you're thinking of your son, when you're hold him as first as a baby, you're like, he's going to be the star quarterback, he's going to be valedictorian, he's going to be all these things in your head, but that's probably not going to be his path. Or, and if it is, that's great if
Mm-hmm.
he wants it. And so I was growing up, I was always like, we're big on Legos. We love Legos. I mean, we just finished the White House Lego set. We did that during the election, and so we both, all of us, enjoy Legos, and so we'll build this set, no matter how many pieces. And he used to tear them down, and I used to get frustrated. I'm like, this set, you see the picture on the box, this is how. So he would tear down all these sets, and he has this box full of Legos, but then he will build his own thing. He starts constructing this, and oh, look, I made this tower, or this dinosaur, or I'm making this rocket. And he made a helicopter the other day that actually all the propellers spun. And so I think what Montessori started teaching me was, let them be, let them
Yeah.
learn, explore at their own pace, instead of I was trying to structure them. It labels Legos, for example. Okay, page one, page two, page three, we're finished. Put it on the shelf. It
Mm-hmm.
looks nice and pretty. And then they tear it all down, and you're like, what are you doing? Why'd you tear it all down? We spent so many hours on it. We did all this stuff. This is exactly how it's supposed to be. And then you see the different things they come up with. They come up with so many different things. One day it's a fort, the next day it's a city, the next day it's a volcano or some kind of mechanical, a truck or whatnot, and it's this whole same Lego box. And I think Montessori kind of really opened my eyes and really saying, let them do it. They
Yeah.
have a way of doing it. It doesn't have to be this structured from A to Z. It could be A to Z, then back to Q, and then over here to X, then back to B.
Yeah.
It could be however they want to be, as long as they're getting their, I guess, learning capability out of it. And
Yeah.
so to me, Montessori really helped that out, because we, of course, as parents, you want your kids to be model. You want to brag about your kids. You want to go to your, oh, my kid got it straight
Yeah.
A's and
Yeah.
all this other stuff. And I think Montessori really told me, let them learn. They're going to learn. They're
Yeah.
It's kind of the mind. I always tell everyone that has the new parents, oh my gosh, I can't wait for my kid to walk. Like, no, you want to slow that down. Camden, we were excited. He walked. Max and we're like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna nudge you a little bit. Let's get another week of you not
Oh
running all over
man.
the place. And that's the thing. They're eventually going to get to the point that we feel like they need to be, but we have to allow them to get there
Yeah.
at their pace.
I I'm happy I had you on, man, because there's a realness about it where you're giving all the emotions that a lot of people just don't say. Like
Yeah,
no matter how strong, no matter how with it you are, you're gonna bring in these desires for your child that you want him or her to be like X. Like
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I've never met a parent who doesn't have some element of
Hmm.
baggage about what their child should be, you know?
Exactly.
So you saying that is so right on. And then just Montessori, and what you're saying is this sense that, observe your child, and you're saying, like, I think it's like, let him be and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think what you'll see interesting as a dad or as a parent here with Camden, it seems, Legos at a young age, because they want to explore with them. Right.
Yeah.
But I
Hmm.
bet you Camden gets, 10, 11 years old, and somebody else says, oh, I'm going to build whatever. He's like, no, these are the directions, because there's a change in development with children.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why, because I think I recently had a conversation with, I think it was a Montessori, I think it was Gina Saki, but I don't know. But she had said that, Legos used to just be a big box with a bunch of Legos. You build whatever you
Hmm.
want, which
Exactly.
for the young ages is awesome. And even for the older ones, but the ones like you built in the White House, there's something really exciting about building this particular thing. Um,
Exactly.
but usually it's the case at the end of the day, it's the older children like that, or, that I'm going to do exactly this. But anyhow, there's an element of Montessori that she cuts through all of our issues by saying, chill out for a moment and just observe and let your child be. You
Exactly.
know?
And that's something that was really hard for me. It was, again, you wanted your kids. We have friends that they have kids. We're all the same age, and they're talking. Oh, my son did this. Oh, listen
Yeah.
to my daughter read, and I'm sitting there like, well, Camden reads, but it's a little bit slower. Why is he reading at his pace? I know he's smart. Why isn't he smart? Why isn't he reading? Camden, why aren't you
Yeah.
reading? And it's like, no, you can't do that. You have to allow. And so I kind of step back. He will read his books. He'll do this, and then we're driving, and he'll read something off a billboard, and you're like, if we just let him be who
Yes.
he was going to
It's
be,
hard,
let him.
huh?
It's really
It's
hard.
hard.
You want to be this, because it's a reflection of you. Your kids are a
Yeah.
reflection of your parenting skills, and if your kid isn't where so and so kid's at, then you feel like you're not
Yeah.
adequate. You're
You're
not
not good
doing a good
enough.
enough job. Exactly, and
Yeah.
that's not the case. And I really think that Montessori's helping us, because it's still, I don't feel like I'm fully. All right, Camden, you got it, buddy. I know you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. No,
There's still some reins we're trying to pull back, and especially with this uh, remote learning, it's been tough with Ruby and I, because Ruby teaches him a certain way, and he's not caring for it one day. Then I show him the same thing. He does it. It takes 1 hour with her and 5 minutes with me. Then vice versa.
a different
She's doing
thing.
it a certain way, and so it gets frustrating, because now he has these packets he has to fulfill and return
Yeah.
every Wednesday. And so now we're like, we don't want to be, you have to do this, but you kind of have to do this, but still kind of do it at your own pace. And so we're trying to find that groove, because it's been pretty tough.
It's
It's been
tough.
really tough.
Yeah. I mean, two things I would say on what you just noted is that a lot of Montessori schools, even really good ones, they never been in this situation either. And the
No.
idea of, virtual learning in Montessori, packets being sent home, it can add extra stress, because then there's like, it's not the normal classroom. So,
Exactly.
so I think everybody's trying to adapt. It's a challenging time. And then the second thing I would notice, interestingly, like what you said about, one activity child might get done in 1 minute, but for the mom, it might take 5 hours, whatever, and then vice versa. I remember as a teacher, there was a year when a parent came in to me and she said, this is one of my positive notes. There's a lot of bad stuff too, but this is a positive note for
Yeah.
me. But she said, so-and-so had you last year for history. And this was when I was a relatively traditional school teacher. And she said, and now I've got, X teacher and she doesn't like history. So there's an element of, for us, even as adults working with children, like, what do we enjoy? Because if
Yeah.
we're trying to
Mhm.
teach a child something that we don't even enjoy,
It's not going to
done.
work.
It's not going to
Yeah.
work. So
Yeah.
I tell parents, I tell teachers, do the stuff that you care about and do it like the way that you go out in nature and you're showing your children the mountains. It's never going to seem forced to those kids because
No.
you're out there running around. Oh, this is, you're having a good time.
Yeah. Exactly.
But the moment it turns into, you got to do this worksheet or else, you're not going to, that just turns into death because none of us like that. Who wants to be
No.
forced, like that? So
Exactly.
it's tough.
And that's something we're working on. Then I tell him, I said, Camden, we know, and then that's the other thing. We know he knows this stuff, but we don't want to like we know you know this, so just do it. And it's not to just do it. Okay, it comes with us. Now we are the teachers. If we are flustered and stressed and all this stuff about what's going on, then he's gonna throw a wall up. He's gonna be like, nope, I'm not gonna. You're not excited. I'm not excited, and that's something that we try to. Now we're starting to kind of turn that curve on that. And of course, the teachers are very helpful when they do their Zoom classes and stuff with them. But yeah, you could tell the teachers are it's so unknown with what's happening. It's so foreign that they're starting to get a groove. But then it's not fully Montessori right now because nothing's truly hands-on, and they give us different things like, here, find these different type of leaves. So they give us different things. We go out and trace, and then we'll go to the park and draw what you see or something like that. So there's things that they implement where we can be more hands-on, but the kids know, especially with Camden in kindergarten coming to first grade, is like, wait, this is not how I was learning. And we got the different learning blocks and the different things just to try to show that, implement how he learned. But now it's completely different, and it's so foreign to him. But we're finally getting to, I think, a decent groove with it. But then we try to. It's frustrating. It's tough. It really is.
I think until we get back to school, it's going to be an ongoing conflict and challenge for parents, for teachers, for everybody. So I'm rooting as strong as can be for getting kids back into school when it's safe, obviously. So you're not doing anything but man, because the virtual learning, it's kind of like us. If it's fun talking to you right now through Zoom, but if this was all we had every day, I want to get outside. I want to go do something.
Exactly.
So anyhow, well, thank you for coming on. It's nice to speak.
Yes.
I don't know what we'll name this episode, but I almost want to name it a Montessori Parent, because it's like you're not like, somebody's going to think, oh, it's going to be this perfectly designed home. And it's like, no, this is just a person who's curious, starting to realize, hey, let my child develop at his own pace. That type of thing.
Yes.
So anyways, I appreciate you coming on, Troy.
No,
nice to see you in person, actually. Yeah. So.
Yes. Great. Well, thank you for having me. This has been a blast. So I'm excited to have the boys listen to it and everything like that. So.
All right. Coming out of my conversation with Troy, I really just want to highlight one quick point, and then I'll get out of here. And hopefully it already came across. And it's that being a Montessori parent can be as simple as just getting your children out of the house, exploring, having adventures, and really just staying curious about this world ourselves, as adults. And of course, there's so much more to Montessori than that, but sometimes it's just these simple, basic things that we can lose sight of. We get wrapped up in like, what exactly is freedom within limits? I mean, exactly. Or, do I have the right materials in my house? Am I doing things right? It's a lot of stress and a lot of baggage, when it really could just be like, let me open the door and walk outside, check things out. I mean, I haven't been to this other part of town before. Let me bring the kids with me and we'll just explore, that type of thing. Hopefully you saw this come across in Troy, and that's why I wanted to have him on. He just seems like a really great model of this. Now, you're not really looking at his pictures, particularly if you're just listening to this. So I would say check him out on Instagram. You can find him at Troy and then Mulous. Now, he's not some influencer or something. He's just a normal dad. But I'm like, he's got a lot of great examples of doing this in his own life. And anyways, I just really appreciate it. And hopefully you guys do as well. Okay, overall with the show, just a practical note, please keep the feedback coming. I'm loving it. I'm loving hearing, what you guys think is working, sometimes people are like, I didn't really enjoy that. Cool, send that in as well. If you're not subscribed yet, definitely subscribe wherever you're at, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on Apple, wherever you're at, and continue spreading the word to family and friends. So it's great to see. Now, if you have suggestions for future episodes, feel free to reach out to me. You can always contact me at Jesse, Jesse, at MontessoriEducation.com. I might not be able to get to you immediately, but I try to get to everyone in due time. It can take a while. I think that's it. Well, thanks for hanging on, and we'll see you next time. Adios.